when Pretoria is in the middle of a cold front, but you make it fashion. Hey, 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 red on red, everything. Welcome back to the Pretty Bookish channel, where we talk all things books all the time. My name is Nogukanya, your resident book nerd, lover, know of all things books. Welcome if it's your first time here. Welcome back if you're an OG and you've been with me for a while. I know you're probably thinking, what's happening? So I'm trying out a couple of new locations in my room to shoot, just for, you know, spicing up the vibe. So I'm actually standing and it's so much more comfortable. I didn't realize shooting standing up was actually so much more comfortable. But these are my shelves. These are my new shelves. They're up. They look so cute. By the way, oh right, I showed you guys my video. So these are my gray shelves. They're like such a vibe. Anyway, so today I'm going to be running you guys through my May wrap up. All the books that I read in May. The ones that I loved. The ones that I kind of hated. I actually hated a couple that I'm surprised that I didn't like. Low-key, I feel like it's because the internet is a lie. So anyway, let me run you guys through the books that I read in May, what I liked, what I didn't like. Let's go. Also, before we start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram on @PrettyXBookish. Like, comment, follow, share, all that fun stuff. You guys know the drill by now. Tell your mama, tell your granddaddy, tell your 2-year-old sister who probably has an iPad, because that's the world we live in now, to subscribe to my channel. This is like a wholesome family show, although I do realize I curse a lot. But anyway, let's get started. May wrap up, Lego. Okay, so the books that I read in May. So the first book that I read was one that really disappointed me. I know we're starting straight out the gate with the bad news, but this was a book that I was expecting so much more from, and it ended up not really working for me. And the first book that I read this month was Transcendent Kingdom by Yasi. For lack of anything else to say, this book was just very boring. First of all, this book is 250 pages, which I don't understand considering the subject matter. It was just so bland. Like, it was so boring compared to Homegoing, which was Ya's other book that I absolutely loved. This book just had no juice, it had no sauce, it had no flavor. I just found it really dry. Yeah, it was giving me very The Vanishing Half vibes, in the sense that it was like overhyped and just like under-delivered. So like I was really disappointed with this one. I don't know how you guys feel. I don't know other people. Let me know in the DMs what you guys, in the comments what you guys thought. But I personally did not enjoy this book at all. Yeah, oh, let me not say it at all. It was like a 3-star book. It was okay, but like I was expecting a lot more. So this is the first book that I read, and it really did not set the tone well for the month. So yeah, this one disappointed me. Very, very disappointed in Transcendent Kingdom. I don't know why everybody hypes it so much, but anyway, this was the first book that I read and I really didn't love it. Okay, so the next book that I read was How Beautiful We Were by Mbolombwe. So good. I really, really enjoyed this book. It was such a well-written book. The subject matter was so important. Basically, it's a book that explores the effects of kind of environmental degradation on traditional indigenous communities, speaking specifically in Cameroon, of the effects, the environmental and the societal effects of like oil drilling, and what happens to communities in that area when American companies are drilling for oil and they are just like spilling oil everywhere and completely destroying the natural environment. And it basically explores how the effect of and how oppressed people fight back. It's told from the perspective of members of the community. The only thing about this, okay, so the next book that I read that I really, 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 really enjoyed was How Beautiful We Were by Mbolombwe. I thought this book was so good. The subject matter was great. The themes explored. Mbolombwe came with her standard ability to really write deep without making the writing overly complicated. It was simple, but it was very, very good. I love the exploration of the theme of kind of the effect of environmental degradation on African communities, and I think it's one of those topics that's not really that discussed. I also don't think I really think about how much the kind of oil drilling for oil and all of these things that like the Western world is kind of pilfering from Africa, quite frankly, the kind of real life consequences. And really that sense of debilitating helplessness that happens, and how those communities just try and fight back, and how and what it does to kind of the collective psyche of a community to have your entire environment, completely destroyed. So yeah, this book was really good. I will say though that the last 100 pages dipped a little bit for me, so I would have liked her to finish strong, but overall I really like it. I like that she went for, why am I keep flipping my hair. I like that she went for a multi-character, multi-narrative perspective. I also like the chapters that were kind of written as the collective children of this community, this like a village in the Cameroon's consciousness. I really like that little touch of the kind of collective and speaking about and kind of imbuing the book with the sense of the communal. I would have loved to have, what's her name again? I think her name Tula. Tula is the main character. I would have loved her narrative voice to come out a bit stronger. But overall, solid 4 to 5. Not, I think I would probably give it like 4.5, 4 to 5 stars. Highly, highly recommend this one. Then the other one that I read that I really liked was Czech Fleas by Ngozi Akuza. It's a queer graphic novel about a figure skater who ends up joining a hockey team at varsity or whatever, and kind of he's cool with the guys, everybody's gay, and he's like a baker and stuff, and then he kind of low-key is vibing with like the captain of the team. Very cute. Really like this one. It was giving me, it gave my Heartstopper draw, like what's the word I'm looking for, withdrawals, a little bit of a kick, but I'm waiting for my Heartstopper volume 4 to arrive. But this one I really enjoyed. The next book I read was absolute garbage. Wow, that was like a really big departure, but I'm so sorry. Thank you to Atrio for sending it to me, but Cobble Hill was absolute garbage. I don't have anything to say about this book. I'm not really sure what it was supposed to be about. I just know that like I was bored from start to finish. I did not DNF it. I should have, guys, but I'm still struggling so much with this DNF live. I should have DNF'd this book because I knew from page 50 that I wasn't interested. And even the way that it ended, I was just like, wow, I just spent 2 days of my life reading this for absolutely no reason. So sorry to the people at Atria, but this was absolute crap. Sorry, that sounds so bad. Okay, what's next? The next book that I read was We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. Okay, so this book is it's a fantasy set in it's a kind of Persian Arabic vibe of a fantasy. I don't know where it's actually set. Obviously it's a fictional world. I really liked Nazir, the Prince of Death, and what's her name, Zafira. I like the plot. I like what it was trying to do. I found the world building to be very scattered, very disorderly. I couldn't really follow 110%, but I like the characters. And I like, especially, I loved Nazir. I always liked the dark romance character. Who's the other one that I have? Where's the book? It's up there. Renee Ardy's series, The Rose of the Dagger and The Wrath and the Dawn. It's giving that similar vibe. Touching kind of an ember in the ashes. I really like that part. The world building was a bit scattered. What else was I going to say? I think book 2 is going to be really strong, so I probably will read book 2. I'd give this about 3.25, and I think it just fell into that trap of like typical book 1s that it didn't hit 100%. So I'm hoping book 2 is where Hafsa Faisal is really going to get moving. So overall, glad I've read it. I'm not 100% sure yet what I think of the whole series, but I'll probably read book 2 and then I'll be able to tell you guys. Okay, and then the other book, I finally read it and I really enjoyed it, guys. And it was Darius the Great Is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. Thank you to everybody who recommended this book. It was so good. Okay, so I remember when I did my possibility, and also when I was talking about this book on Instagram, I said that it was unclear whether or not it was queer lit. I even said this in my review. A lot of people have said it is, some people say it isn't. So it is queer lit in my opinion. It's just that like what you typically understand as like queer lit or queer narratives is when like the characters are out and proud and a central part of the narrative is their sexual orientation, and it's not in this book. But I definitely think it's queer lit, especially if you read the synopsis for book 2, which is Darius the Great Deserves Better. You know that it is definitely queer lit. So I really enjoyed this book. The mental health discussion around mental health rep was really fantastic in this book. I like so much that, okay, so Darius suffers from depression and so does his dad, and I think it's such an important element to discuss, is the kind of hereditary genetic component to kind of some mental health conditions, because I think things like depression, it's very seldom you see people discussing the genetic element of it, right? And I like that they did that. I also like that Darius and his dad kind of take their medication every day. It's a thing that they take their pills in the evening and in the morning or whatever. And I like how this book represents mental health as kind of an illness like any other, where you're dealing with it. Because I think a lot of the time when mental health conditions are represented in books, it's always in the midst of some kind of episode, whether someone didn't know they had a mental illness and so they're struggling with it, or they're having some sort of mental health crisis. And I think it's important to represent the kind of day-to-day reality of a lot of people who who struggle with mental illnesses, that it is just like an illness. It's like, you know, having arthritis or like having like diabetes. It's something you have to manage every single day. And so yes, I really like this book. I loved what's his name, Sorab. I love Sorab and Darius's relationship, and I can't wait to see what happens in book 2. So this was another book that I'm so glad that I finally read. Really, really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend this one. The next one is Archangels Son by Nalini Singh. I absolutely love this book, guys. This series, this writer can do no wrong. This Archangel series, this Guild Hunter series is so good. This, I think, is like book 12 in the series. Fantastic. I am a huge fan. This just carried on the really high caliber of work that I'm used to from Nalini Singh. Guys, by the way, I keep telling you, but like, can you all please read this series? Can you all please read this series and also the Side Changing series? They are so good. So anyway, I didn't know that I needed another Archangel to love, but Titus, I think I got a new bae. I think I have a new bae in this series. And I recently saw the cover for Archangel's Light, and the fact that Iliam and Ardan are about to have their story, I am just, but anyway, finished this. Really, really loved it. Really, really glad I've read this. What else? Now we're moving on to some stuff that was like, so I have a vlog for this that I think I may have uploaded or have not yet. I'm not sure yet what my upload schedule is like. We'll see. But I finished Chain of Iron. It was very disappointing. I'm very disappointed by it. It was pretty long for no reason. I found it to be really bland, and it was like 500 pages for no reason. But please watch my vlog. It'll give you more of an insight into what I actually thought and like my process of reading it and my frustration as I was moving, and give you more information. But I did read Chain of Iron and I was not impressed. What else? Let me see. Okay, so the next one is an African lit book that I bought, and thank you so much to Amin for the recommendation. I read Butter Honey Pig Bread. It was the last book that I read in May. It's really, really good. I really, really enjoyed this book, and surprisingly, this book surprised me because I didn't realize it had queer rep. And so it's the story of like two twins, Kehinde and Taye. Taye is a lesbian, and then Kehinde is straight. And then their mother Kimbarnachi, who is described in the book, or you kind of see that she's kind of like, she's kind of like the reincarnation of a spirit who kind of exists between this world and the next world, and she kind of stays in this current world. I don't know how to explain this. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this without giving something away, and without, because I'm not really in touch with my spiritual side. But how am I going to explain this? Okay, so she's basically like kind of like a spirit, and it's basically this discussion. This book is very magical realist in Kimbarnachi's perspective. It's a straddling of the kind of uber realist with a magical realism. And then Kehinde and Taye are her twin daughters. They have a traumatic experience when they're children after their father dies, and then they kind of separate, and they have their own lives and their own journeys, and they're not speaking to each other. And I like that each of the twins kind of has their own sustaining narrative. At some point they both go home to Nigeria to visit their mother, and so they kind of have to reconnect. But Kehinde has her own traumas and her own stuff to work through. Taye has her own stuff to work through. I just felt like also the love stories that they had were fantastic. Salome, like Taye and Salome, I was just like, oh my god, yes. And the ending, I was like, oh my god, it was such a good ending. It ended on such a hopeful note. You're kind of anticipating for the future of all of the characters. It didn't end in a super traumatic thing. I will say though that I'd wish the ending had a bit more of a reckoning. If you've read the book, you know what I mean, especially between Kimbarnachi and Kehinde. I feel like there was a broader conversation to be had, a mother-daughter conversation to be had, but they touched on it slightly, but didn't get into kind of the culpability or the kind of responsibility that Kimbarnachi bears for the trauma her children went through and her role in that. So, but other than that, I really, really enjoyed Butter Honey Pig Bread, so I would definitely recommend it. So cosign. Okay, so next up I have a romance book that I read that I really enjoyed. If I Don't Have You by Sarita Domingo. It was so good. It was giving me very Love Jones, Love and Basketball vibes. They meet on a night in New York. circumstances thrust them together, they fall in love, it's like instant attraction, and then so like they are together, like, or kind of meet each other in like the first 2 chapters. By the way, this is one of the best first chapters of a book I've ever read. I was sucked in, and then they kind of have life happen, and they live on different coasts. They're both artists in their own right. They live on different coasts and trying to navigate the relationship. They have their own dramas happening, and then there's a big twist that happens, and then they kind of have a falling out, and then they have to come back to everything was just, it was just good. I will say though that the book drags a little bit in the middle, because this is what happened. So because the interactions between Ren and Kayla was so good when they were together, the chemistry, this is one of the best couples I've ever seen written in terms of chemistry. The scenes where they are not together kind of fall flat. It's just like, okay, I get that Ren has life things and Kayla has life things, but can they please get together now, because I don't care. Unless they're physically together, I don't care. So that's what happened. But overall, definitely really, really recommend this one if you're looking for a black love story, a black romance. Also, this is an independent publisher, I think, Jacaranda Books in the UK. So I recommend this as well. It was really, really good. Oh, sorry, I don't know where to put this stuff, because like, child, this is a new location. We don't know where everything is. The next book, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I read The Emperor's Babe by Bernardine Evaristo. Guys, I don't know. It's a book written in verse. It's about this girl named Zuleika. Basically, it's set in like the 1800s, no, 211 AD, during the Roman occupation of London. So it's basically like a comedy / a romance love story about her. She's like a child bride thing who marries some weird dude and then ends up falling in love with Emperor Septimius, who she randomly meets, and it's very weird. It's a little bit disturbing, and I'm not really sure if I liked it. Please let me know if anybody's read this book in the comments, but like, I personally don't think I enjoyed it. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. And I feel like if you have to be not sure about a book, you probably didn't like it. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know who I would ever recommend that to. Personally, I just did not enjoy it that much, so I don't know. I don't know. And then the other book that was a fantastic balm this month, I think is probably my favorite book that I read this month, Furia by Yamila Said Mendez. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how you write a YA book. Stare, look. This is how you write YA. It's fantastic. The themes covered, the character, the depth of the characters. It was so well situated within Argentinian society, but it wasn't super heavy. It still had that lightness of YA books, but still, Camilla, who's the main character, I loved her so much. Such a very real girl, like, who's navigating real life things, you know, struggle of family life, trying to reach your dreams in an environment where women are not meant to be more than just somebody's wife or somebody's mother. She wants to be a footballer. So it's set, because if you don't know anything about, if you know something about South America, you know South America is big football country. Like, the entire continent is big for all the best footballers come out of there. So she wants to be a football player. And then the male main character, I think, what's his name again? Diego is a football player. He's made it. He's like plays for like some Italian team. And he's like her first love or whatever. And then he comes back, and it's like, she wants to live her dream, but she loves him. Does she leave him to live her dreams? It's just so good. I loved Furia. So I highly recommend this one as well. Definitely, if you're looking for something just like stand out and very good, Furia is really good. Also, I read Saga by Brian K. Vaughan, which is a graphic novel. Obsessed. I can't wait to get volume 2. This was very good. It's basically like, it's giving me very dystopian sci-fi vibes. It's like this it's basically like this different universes or different planets or whatever. One is like the colonizer, one is like the colonizer, and then these two people come from different planets, then they fall in love and they have a baby, and now she comes from like the overlords, or like the galaxy. I don't know how to describe this. Guys, you can see I never read sci-fi because my science fiction vocab is garbage. But like, they're like basically the colonizers. She comes from the colonizers, and so her people are trying to hunt them down to kill them because they have like a mixed race baby of tomorrow. And it's just really interesting. I just find it really fun. The graphics are it's very graphic, by the way. It's like very like murdery, but I like it. It's humorous. It's giving like science fiction vibes. So that I also enjoyed. I can't wait to get volume 2. What else? I also read Black Girl Finance by Selena Flavius. I did say this in my vlog. Personally, it's not for me, and not because it's not good. It's good, but I feel like this is an entry-level book about thinking about finance. It's a very, I like the way Selena writes it in a very girl-to-girl, sis, let's talk kind of way, but it's basically like making it okay for people to get over their hang-ups about money, to stop being ashamed, forgive yourself for money mistakes, and basically giving clear-cut and very simple advice as to how to start thinking about money and how to start climbing out of debt, and also how to start managing your money and developing a relationship with your financial literacy and your money. I think this book is more entry level. I've read other books on financial literacy, so this book didn't really teach me anything I didn't know, but I think if you want to start thinking about your own financial literacy, this is probably a good book to get. I also read A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. Also in my vlog, when I read Chain of Iron, I read a lot that weekend. But this book, I thought it was good. It was your classic romance novel, like maybe 3.5 stars. It wasn't spectacular. It was good. It's something like, if you want just a romance novel just to pass the time, something to read. I also like that it's set in a place called New Athens. So basically, basically, by the way, if you don't know, it's a retelling of the story of Hades and Persephone. It is a Greek mythology remake, retelling, whatever you want to call it. So it's good in that regard. I also like the way that it's like you just interact with some of your favorite gods. Like they're all like, so in this series, like, your gods are like regular people, but they're like super rich. So like, for example, Zeus owns like a tech company and he's like super rich. He's still a god, like he still has powers, but he's also just a dude who owns a tech company. So I really like that element of it. So this one I also would definitely recommend for someone who likes romance books. You like Greek mythology stuff. It's not gonna change your life, but it was pretty good. So yeah, glad I've read that as well. Okay, so the other thing that I read, I've read The Stone Sky. I finally finished this trilogy. I can come to you emphatically now and say without pause, I still have no idea what I just read. I have no idea what happened in the series. Please don't ask me anything. I think I enjoyed it. I will say this though. The 5th season is the best of the 3. It's very, very good. It's much better. I enjoyed the 5th season, which was book 1, more than I enjoyed. I think it went in order. I think this is the weakest of the 3. I don't know. I don't know if I like how the story ended. I can't tell you guys anything because this book, like, you need to get to the end. And I see how they wrapped it up, but I didn't love how it ended. But yeah, I finally finished this trilogy. I was confused still 90% of the time, but you know what? We move. It's fine. We finished, even though we had no idea what was happening. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Okay, so the other book that I also finally finished was Exhale, Queer African Erotic Fiction by Ola Africa. Bruh, I've had this book in so many vlogs and so many things. I finally finished the short stories. I would give it like a 3.5. I said this in my Instagram post about it, that the thing I love about this book so much is that it's a book that centers queer lust, romance, sex, passion without trauma. Like, it's, you know, queer lit has a tendency, or people, we have a tendency to really just want to consume books that really just like romanticize queer suffering and queer pain and queer trauma. And I like that this book is just like literally about sex. People are just having sex. It's like kinky sex, BDSM sex, all a manner of things are happening in this book. So I like that. Some of the short stories I thought were super weak. I didn't like them that much, but this always happens to me, and I think probably you guys as well, when you read anthologies, essay collections, short story collections. Not everything is gonna hit, but overall I'm glad that this book is in the world. So Pride Month is now, so if you're looking for something to read now in June, this is something you can definitely pick up. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so this other one, I had to even change my face because I was not happy. I just have a question. What the hell was this? Guys, oh my god, this is probably the worst sequel I have ever read. And when I say ever, I mean ever read. So I loved American Royals. Where is my American Royals? It is right here. So American Royals was the first book. Absolutely loved it. You guys know I even recreated this cover. I gave it 5 stars. I was so into it. It was giving me dynasty vibes set in the US if the US was a monarchy. Then here comes Majesty, book 2. Every character I hate now. All of them fell flat. All of the execution was rubbish. For every single character did not end up with anyone I thought they should end up with. I mean, okay, no, I liked Teddy and what's her name, Queen Beatrice, so I was fine with that. But like, all of them ended so, and the book ended so badly, and like, they all sucked. Like, all of the characters were shit. Like, Don't even start me on Nina and Ethan. This book bothered. I'm so upset. Like, I just don't even know. I don't know what Catherine McGee was doing. I honestly don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with this book. It also reads like there was supposed to be a book 3 and then they just decided, oops, no. I don't know what was happening when they were writing this book, but it's a full hell no from me. So from my perspective, if you haven't read this series, I wouldn't even recommend you to read it now because the book 2 is so crap. Or I would just say read book 1 and just like leave it there. Because guys, American Rose was so good. It was so good. Like, it was so entertaining. It was funny. It was such a nice premise. It was giving me very, like, American President vibes. It was giving me very, like, the Princess Diaries vibes, but just, like, better. This, Manils, absolute nonsense. Like, Majesty was absolute nonsense. Like, I don't know, like, I was just very disappointed in that book. Like, I'm sure you could tell, but, like, wow. Nonsense. Switching gears slightly, so the other book that I read was Femicide in South Africa by Nachama Brody. You guys know that I work in the space, the GBV space. So I was reading this book for work as well, just to kind of like, I like to keep up with all the books that are out on the specific subject matter, but also I'm busy in the middle of writing some stuff, or I'll talk to you guys about what I'm doing a bit later probably in the month or in July, but I needed to read this book. The thing about it is that, like, I didn't necessarily like it. I mean, I know it's a book about femicide, so you're not really gonna love it. It's not gonna be like, oh, 5 stars, definitely recommend. But I didn't really find, it wasn't really a very cohesive book. It didn't teach me anything that I didn't necessarily know, but I think that's probably because I've read a lot of books on the subject. I think if you're gonna read something on this particular thing, I would definitely say Rape by Pumla Gola is much better. The only thing that I did like that Nachama Brody spent some time, I think the first 2 chapters were probably the best ones, was her basically explaining how the statistics around crime come about, because it's such an interesting thing to think about how statistics can be manipulated. She was basically made a really good point about how a lot of people talk about how, oh, the crime stats were so much better in South Africa pre-democracy. Let's go back to apartheid, whatever. But she was making a very important point that pre-94, the crime statistics were only speaking about white communities and then moved to, I think, maybe Indian communities and maybe colored communities. But the homelands have always been excluded from the crime statistics of South Africa. So it's not accurate to say that the crime has drastically shot up in terms of actual instances. It's just that now it's on paper, because now we count the whole of South Africa as one country, as one people. So I thought that that's such an interesting thing to think about, how statistics and data can be manipulated, and how to think about how to really take a step further and investigate where the information you're getting is coming from. So I thought that was interesting from this perspective, but I definitely think Rape by Pumla Gola is definitely better. But anyway, just another book that I read. Okay, so another book that I read this month was Laziness Does Not Exist by Devon Price. It's a book that I think I spoke about in my whole video. I think it might have been in my Possibility Power, I'm not 100% sure, but it's a book that basically talks about our productivity culture and basically problematizes the notion of laziness, and how what we frame as laziness in this uber production culture where everybody's self-worth is tied to their ability to produce is actually really problematic. So it's an interesting premise for a book. I enjoyed it to a certain extent. However, I will say this book has a major gap in that it doesn't dive deep enough in the socioeconomic and the geopolitical nature of, and the kind of those dynamics around work. Because basically the underlying tone of this book is that people need to take care of themselves. We need to stop piling things on our plates and just adding more work. And we need to learn how to breathe, how to take a break and listen to our bodies. That's the underlying narrative of this book, which is true. But I actually feel like that message only applies to a specific socioeconomic demographic, because I think huge parts of the global population do not work as hard as they do out of choice. Like, people would love to be able to take their allocated leave days and stay at home, but people have to work 2-3 jobs to be able to earn a living wage, because the way that the kind of capitalist system and the way that most of the structures and the cost of living in most parts of the world make it impossible for people to be able to self-regulate their own work in a way that is healthy. So I think that's one of the things that I found was a bit of a gap in the book. Also, it didn't speak enough to the kind of racial element of it, and how even this idea of being able to slow down and take a break ignores the fact that for people of color, especially Black people, there is an overwhelming kind of prejudice and a stereotype that Black people are lazy, and thinking about what does that mean for Black people who are taking leave days and wanting to take a break. How does that tie into, and how does the overwhelming social I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? The way that our society views people of color, how does that contribute to people overworking themselves? And so I think that's one of the things that I probably think is one of the biggest gaps in this book, is that it almost places the onus on us to do better, to take care of ourselves, instead of highlighting the ways in which the system is not geared towards allowing us to take care of ourselves, if that makes sense. So I think, to be fair, he touches on it in certain parts to a certain degree, but I just felt like he didn't go deep enough in that particular element of the conversation. So that was just one of the huge failings of this book, but I thought it was pretty good. Like, I think if you read the first 2 chapters, you probably get the gist of what this whole book is about. So yeah. Right, guys, so those are all the books that all the books that I have physical copies of, because you guys know I'm always so lazy, because my phone, I'm staring at, it's over there, but I can't be asked to go and look at any audiobooks that I read this month. Sorry. So those are the books that I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Quite a wide variety of books, a couple of good ones. I think I was just looking around, there's an overwhelming tone of disappointment here, so it happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you find it instructive. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of any of these books. If you also read them, you agree with me, you disagree with me, whatever the case may be. I love chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram and @PrettyXTurkish, like, comment, follow, share, all that fun stuff. So yeah, by the way, I'm really loving this whole standing video thing. I think this aesthetic is so much better. It's giving me smart girls worldwide vibes. So I think I'm gonna start shooting my videos from standing right here. It's also so much more comfortable, guys. Like, sitting is for losers, as I'm about to go crawl back in my bed.